Here in downtown Charleston at 17 Lockwood Drive for the Coach Brent Thompson show here tonight as we get set for a big game this weekend with the Bulldogs traveling on the road to take on VMI. I'm Luke Morrow alongside the head coach Brent Thompson of the Citadel Bulldogs. Coach, how are you tonight?
I'm doing fine. It's been a long week. It certainly has. And getting ready to leave here on Friday, so we've got one more day of prep to go. A couple of good practices. They're not outstanding just yet. I think we've got a little bit more prep to do, and we'll be all right and ready to go.
Here until 8 o'clock at the Marina Variety Store. Thanks for those out here joining us in person or joining us online on YouTube or on the airwaves as well. Every Wednesday, the Bulldogs coming off a loss this past week at home against ETSU on Saturday, 26-23. Now gearing up for the big rivalry game this upcoming Saturday, back on the road with VMI back in the conference. What is this week leading up to the game with VMI? What is that like for you guys?
Well, it starts off really the introduction of the Shako. Again, some of our freshmen don't really know the history behind it. They see a trophy on the shelf over there. They may or may not have looked at it. So I usually introduce what it's all about. I usually give a little bit of a background on the game, give a little bit of background since I've been here, what that is entailed, and that's been some very eventful games. They've played us very, very tight. They've done a great job against us. And then I just talk in general about rivalry games and what it means to their season and what it means to our season, and really what it means to both schools.
And we'll jump more into that matchup and what that game means for both programs moving forward. But first, let's look back at the game that was this past weekend against ETSU as part of Parents Weekend, the return home, first home game in about 5 weeks, and coming up just a little bit short, 26-23 against ETSU, a very good team, top in the conference. And another one of those situations for you guys where, one or two plays go a different way, it's a different outcome. Instead, another tough loss for you.
Yeah, it was one of those games that we knew we were going to have. They're a very experienced team, and as I sat in here last week and told you that they have quite a few fourth and fifth year players, guys that have been with them since the start of the program, particularly on defense, and some offensive guys as well. So we had to play a flawless game, and unfortunately, I thought we played a very good game, especially on defense. We played a pretty good defensive game, but unfortunately, there's a couple little things that caught up to us again.
How have the guys responded from that game, getting back to practice this week, getting ready for the next one, and, of course, this rivalry with VMI?
I thought we were slow yesterday, a little bit better today. Sunday was a fairly average practice as well, so we've had to kick it into gear a little bit. Today, I thought we got out there ready to go. We still made some mistakes out there that we need to clean up, and we still got a good work day tomorrow ahead of us.
It's been obviously not the start to the season that you guys were hoping for or looking for, the 1-4 record, but you look at the conference losses, all the conference games, you total them up, the point differential is -4 right now in 4 games. That's how close these games have been. But do you have to do anything different to make sure that the guys don't get overly frustrated with the results early on and kind of lose focus of the week-to-week goals?
I had to sit them down this week and say, look, sometimes these are the way that things go. We've got to find a way to break through. We're just missing on a couple of those little things, which is just costing us just enough points to lose the football game. But I did accentuate the positive this week. We played run defense like Citadel football should. We moved the football on occasion on offense like we know we should against a very good team. Keep in mind ETSU was coming in giving them 70 yards a game on the ground, and we had just a little bit over 200 on them. So, all wasn't lost and all wasn't bad. We've got to find the highlights in there, and unfortunately it's magnified when you lose the game that you lose sight of some of those things that you did really well.
Has it been challenging at all for the head coach to keep that perspective? And even though you're not getting the final results, there's still a lot of good things that your teams are doing out there week in and week out.
Well, as I said in the press conference yesterday, I like this team. I like the makeup of this team. I like the leadership of this team. I like the way that these guys generally come to work and come to practice every single day. When I get on them, they go. When they know that they're not doing what they're supposed to, they get up and they go. So I do like these guys, and I do think that we're a good football team. We just haven't reached that point to where we can make a mistake and overcome it. We can't. We've got to do everything perfectly right in order to win those games, and I think that's going to come, and we've had years like this. And I told the staff the same thing. I said, we're going to come in every single day. We just got to keep on working. We're going to break through this thing.
The 3-point loss on Saturday against East Tennessee State, and now getting ready for VMI on Saturday, this upcoming Saturday. Does it help when you do have that game? I know it's a young team. Some of these guys haven't gone through the rivalry yet, but when you have VMI coming up, a game like this, the importance of this matchup, does that help the guys put the last game behind them quickly and look ahead now?
I sure hope so. You never can tell, and you won't really figure that out until you take the field on Saturday. What team really goes up there? This is going to be. It's always very challenging to play up there. It's a challenging environment for some reasons there. It's usually an afternoon game because they don't have lights. They've got their core cadets there. We'll have ours, so the environment will be pretty good there. But there's always that. I don't know that we've played all that well since I've been there up there. Our first year in 2014 was probably our best showing up there.
Getting ready for the game with VMI on Saturday. The Bulldogs off to the 1-3 start in the conference. As I mentioned, point differential is -4. And I talk about on my radio show that I'm a big numbers geek. I'm into the analytics. And when you look at point differential and you look at something like -4, the expected win-loss of a team would be a little bit higher than what the record currently shows. And what that statistic would say, not to get too deep into numbers, is that eventually it's going to turn around. That maybe you have some bad breaks, but at a certain point, whether it's this year or next year, it's going to flip, and that record will be reverse. What would you need to see from your team to know that you guys are breaking through and turning these close losses into wins?
Well, we've got to be able to convert more points. We've got to be able to stop more third downs. We've got to be able to get off the field more. We've got to have more successful drives down there. We can't just always sit back and play field position and ball control. Sometimes we've got to feel it, and we've got to be able to finish the drive off. We've had a couple of drives where we just weren't able to finish them off. There, certain things stick out in the Towson game. There's too many points that we left out on the field right there. We've got to convert those. In last week's game, we throw the interception late. We don't convert 2 fourth downs. That stops drives. That puts the defense back on the field. We're not scoring points there. That essentially adds up to about 4 turnovers there. 2 interceptions and 2 turnovers on downs within about a yard and a half on fourth down that we should be able to convert. And we should be able to get those yards right there. So we've got to start to do those kind of things, do those little things and make plays. When we make plays in the Mercer game, we win football games.
And I know you and the players, you won't make excuses, you won't feel sorry for yourselves, but when you look at the schedule, at this point in the season, the first 5 games, 4 of the 5 teams are ranked, 3 of the first 4 are on the road, you play the top 4 teams in the conference. Now you get into the second half of the season where, when you look at the schedule moving forward, the teams have a combined record below 500, it's the bottom 4 in the conference, no ranked teams. So the good news, I guess, is that not to slight the upcoming schedule, but it certainly, on paper, seems to get a little bit easier for you guys to finish out this year.
Yeah, when you look at it, sometimes it's a little bit scary on the back end of it because you got teams like Furman that are out there beating Wofford, still at the back end of the schedule, and I think they've gotten better. They've kind of found an identity. They're playing some young guys on the offensive side, so you've got some of those teams out there still lurking. A Western team that I haven't been able to figure out. I've seen them. I watched them play Gardner-Webb early in the year on TV. Very good on offense. They're giving up a lot of points on defense. Not really sure what this whole scenario is going to be there. Furman, I mentioned, going to be a good football team probably. Peaking at the right point, of course, another rivalry game for us. So we've got some really good teams down the line, but certainly may not be the caliber of teams that we did see.
Now, with this new redshirt rule where freshmen can play 4 games or less and still get that year back, or I guess sophomores can even as well, or any class for that matter, getting into these final 6 games, do you look at some of the freshmen and look to give them an opportunity the rest of the season, knowing you can still get them this season back?
Yeah, we're starting to look at a little bit of roster management right now, and there are some sophomores out there that we played as true freshmen that do have a redshirt year that we probably do have to look to play or at least fill in. When you get in late in the year like this, you got to be very careful. You don't want to burn too many games, so that way at the end of the year we don't have anybody left to. And that's really been the case for us, is we've had to burn some of our players that we've been trying to hold late, which this should be a little bit easier for us. But I would like to see us start to play a little bit more in the freshman class. There's 2 or 3 on the offensive side that I would like to play, maybe 1 or 2 on the defensive side at this point.
You don't have to give any names, but could we see some of those guys as early as Saturday?
I do think so. I do have a plan to play at least maybe 1, if not 2, on Saturday.
The Bulldogs getting ready for a big matchup with VMI this upcoming Saturday, coming off the loss against ETSU this past Saturday. Here until 8 o'clock with the Coaches Show with the head coach, Brent Thompson, from the Marina Variety Store in downtown Charleston. You can participate by tweeting questions using the hashtag AskCoachThompson. And when we come back, we'll continue to break down the game from this past Saturday, the 26-23 loss against ETSU. It's the Coaches Show right here on ESPN Radio 94.7 FM and 910 AM.
Bulldog fans, I'm Danielle Hensley here for your Bulldog Breakdown. Getting us started this week, men and women's cross country will hit the trail this Saturday to compete in the Sand Shark Cross Country Invitational hosted by the University of South Carolina, Beaufort. Rifle will also compete this Saturday. The mixed team will host number 4 TCU. They are coming off of a second-place finish, falling behind UAB and before Wofford College last weekend. Max Brabston once again led the Dogs with a third-place overall finish. Women's golf finished the Blue Hose match placed in 5th overall on Tuesday. Nadia Sandler captured a point for the Bulldogs at number 1 in the second round, winning 5-4, the best finish of the season for the Citadel. Your Bulldog soccer team is now 7-8 overall after picking up 2 losses last week. The Dogs fell 2-3 against Wofford on Sunday before falling short to Furman on Tuesday. This week, they will look to bounce back against Western Carolina on Friday at home, kickoff set for 3 p.m. Don't miss out on the last opportunity to cheer your Dogs on at home as they will host ETSU on Sunday at 2 p.m. Volleyball also added 2 losses last week, dropping straight sets to Mercer on Wednesday and to ETSU on Saturday. This week, they will serve on Friday against Western Carolina at 6 p.m. before traveling to UNCG to face the Spartans on Saturday. Last weekend, the Citadel football team hosted conference opponent ETSU, and after the best defensive showing of the season, the Dogs still couldn't manage to hold the Buccaneers. The Bulldogs fell 26-23. This weekend, they will travel to VMI for a 1:30 kickoff against the Keydets. You can watch live on ESPN3. I'm Danielle Hensley, and that is all this week for your Bulldog Breakdown. Follow Citadel Sports for all things Citadel Athletics. Have a great week, and go Dogs!
Pizza with Pepsi. Delicious.
Style. Selection. Service. Quality. Value. See what everyone is talking about. Ashley Furniture Home Store.
TD Bank's new intern, Bart, is one of those robots from another bank. We're training him to bank human. Bart, why are you winding the clock back?
The clock stated 11:35 p.m., but they are still working.
The clock is fine. Our live customer service is available all night, and all day for that matter. He's learning.
At TD Bank, we do things differently.
Hello?
Like live customer service.
Hello?
24/7. Don't just bank. Bank human.
We build our communities. We earn our success. We, as South Carolinians, work best together. Don't follow your bank into the impersonal world of mergers. Make a change. Visit South Atlantic Bank to talk with local bankers who care about the Low Country. Our local headquarters will be ready next year on Johnny Dodds Boulevard. Until then, stop by our current location. You'll find a community bank with a proven track record of financial success. South Atlantic Bank, people you know and trust.
This is the Pepsi for serious fans and serious eats. This is the Pepsi for Sundays at the ballpark and days off at your favorite pizza joint. Right, Aaron?
Best slice in New York.
Whatever you're craving, this is the Pepsi for you.
We're welcoming you back to the Coaches Show. The head coach, Brent Thompson of the Citadel Bulldogs, here at the Marina Variety Store Restaurant located at 17 Lockwood Drive. You can come out and join us here every Wednesday during the football season in person, or just come to the restaurant anytime, even when we're not here. Great food, great location, great view, right down the road from the university. And the Bulldogs this past Saturday playing at home for the first time in about 5 weeks, coming up a little bit short against ETSU, 26-23, as we recap that game before looking ahead to the big rivalry matchup with VMI this Saturday up in Virginia. And, Coach, looking back at the ETSU game, you said in your press conference that there were a couple of plays that kind of haunted you from Saturday against the Buccaneers. What were some of those plays that kind of stayed with you afterwards?
Well, certainly the fourth down call. When I go back and I look at them on film, certainly the fumble, the turnover was just an exchange issue. I thought we would have had the first down there. Mm-hmm. The one going in the second quarter, I thought for sure, there's probably a tag I could have put onto that play that would have made it a little bit better for us and have more of an opportunity. But as I said in the press conference, is when you have an opportunity to get a fourth down and you want to convert it, who do you go to? Well, you put it in one of your two best guys' hands. So for us, it's been Lorenzo Ward, and it's been probably I would say Jordan's got some opportunity there, and that's certainly an opportunity not to take it out of the quarterback's hands. So there are some guys out there that I think we can hand the football to and get it, but I don't want to exchange too many things. And I know tossing the ball out there, we ended up tossing it on fourth down late in the game to Dregford, who's been very reliable for us. So he's another guy we can put it in his hands. So I was just trying to limit the mistakes right there, and certainly we didn't limit it on the one and turn the ball over on just the exchange. I thought we had good push. The offensive line did a good job and had certainly enough to get the first down possibly. The next call was the one in the second quarter that I thought gave it to Lorenzo again. Usually he's pretty good to dig one out. Even if you miss a block in there, he's got a chance. Just a guy came free right up the middle there. We didn't have the gap sealed off quite as we should have, and just couldn't get it.
Those two fourth down plays, they led to the first 6 points for ETSU there in the first half. This is not an attempt to second guess you. I'm just trying to trying to find out where your thought process is now removed from the situation. If you're in that moment again, do you still like the decision to go for it on those fourth downs?
Oh yeah, certainly. We've done it all year long. I think we've gone for it somewhere around 26 times. We've been more than half of those times we've been fairly successful doing it. And you got to consider when you're down in the game and you're going for it a little bit on fourth down when it's fourth and long, and the chances aren't quite as high. But I think our chances with fourth and 1 or 2 should be fairly high, and we should convert those. We're right around midfield. We were just on our side of the 50, so it wasn't like you were backed up on the 25 or 30 yard line. I wasn't thinking too much about that. And then as I told Jeff Hartzell at the end of the day he asked me the same question, and I said, yeah, well, I punted the next time, and they travel down the field and score the touchdown, so really what's the right answer there? It's whatever the gut feeling is, so you just got to go with it and believe in it and play defense.
The Bulldogs fell Saturday 26-23 against ETSU, but we've talked a lot this year about getting off to slow starts, and that wasn't the case Saturday. Defense came out, had a 3-and-out, and then the offense got the football. You went right down the field, got that touchdown. First touchdown on an opening drive this season. What was the difference for the team to come out, get off to that fast start, and get points on the opening possession?
Well, I think the play calling was on both sides of the ball was more not feeling the game out. We knew exactly what we wanted to do. We were at home. We were going to try to take it to them. And on both sides, defense and offense, we thought we were going to be able to try to score first, get a good stop, and that's exactly what we did. I had it in my mind that we were going to just make sure they were in the right defense, run the ball on first down, take a deep shot on second down, and see if we can't catch them off guard a little bit. We had it set up just the way we wanted it all practice long. We've been looking good there. And the ball all the way down to the 5-yard line on the second play from scrimmage, so that certainly helps.
Didn't make a difference because you got the touchdown anyways, but were you surprised that they were able to catch Raleigh Webb on that reception? I
was until I saw the film, and Raleigh saw the guy, which he was clearly going to beat, probably behind him, and he was veering towards the corner, who was pretty fast. I do admit that. He was gaining on him quickly, but he ran right towards him. I think if he ran a straight line in the shortest distance between 2 points, he would have scored there, and Raleigh's a pretty fast guy.
After that touchdown, then the decision to go for two, first 2-point attempt this year comes on the opening possession. What went into that decision?
Same thing there. We knew we had the look that we were looking for, and we repped it for 2 weeks. We had the bye week. We were being aggressive. Same thing. What we were trying to do was just aggressive play calling in the first half, play it out in the second half, and see how it goes. And unfortunately, we were trying to take it to the pylon, and he tried to cut back on the guy, and the guy made a great play.
I thought from our vantage point up in the press box that for the defense, it was certainly the best game of the year. I thought they played really well. What was your feeling on the defense on Saturday? When
I watched it from the sideline, I saw some really good, tough run-stopping hits in there, and I saw some of our young players playing really well. And when you see that, you feel like you're making progress. You feel like this is what we're looking for. The guys are getting it, So I was really pleased with the way we played, especially in the first half. Our defense was solid. Our run defense was particularly solid, and a lot of our younger players were doing a great job.
Yeah, you mentioned stopping the run. I think you held them to less than 2 yards per carry, I think. You got after the quarterback, 4 sacks, I believe, from the defense. And that was something we talked about last week, getting after the quarterback. And you were able to not only pressure the quarterback, but for the most part, keep him in the pocket as opposed to letting him get away. So it looked like up front the defense did a very good job, both against the run and the pass.
I thought we did a good job on defense getting after the quarterback. Now, not quite as a mobile guy as the young man Flacco from Towson, but we let him out of the pocket on the one. He scrambled, makes a big play down the field, and they ended up scoring on that drive. But to be honest with you, other than that, I think we did a good job of containing them, getting some sacks, pressuring the run a little bit. And I was a little bit nervous about that offense. I thought they were pretty good on offense. They did a great job against Gardner-Webb, and our defense came out and was up to the task.
And some certain players that really stood out, really the whole defensive unit, but Noah Dawkins had a big game, Randolph Eubanks, a lot of plays in the backfield, a couple of sacks there from Dawkins. Who impressed you the most from the defense individually on Saturday?
Well, certainly Noah and Joe did a great job, and converting and making plays that we hadn't made all year long and getting those sacks in the backfield where we had to let them out a little bit. But then, I saw some really just good, like I said, some of our good secondary guys are younger guys are coming around, making some plays. Having Kafari back certainly helped when the quarterback can hold on to the ball a little bit longer because we're able to stay in coverage a little bit longer, or we feel good about pressing the guy and staying in man-to-man coverage as we're blitzing out there. So, Beverly did a great job. Chris Beverly, he comes up supporting the run like a safety should. Was able to kind of get on it. I thought he triggered himself a lot quicker than he normally had in the past. He was not sitting back reading too much. He was getting up and filling the run. So guys like that you really needed to see it out. Noah we knew, and Joe Randolph we know is a good football player. But when you got Chris Bev out there, seeing it fit quickly and fitting it like Kali used to, I think that's going to be very helpful for us in the future.
We mentioned Raleigh Webb. I mean, that catch in that first drive, that was one of 10 receptions he had in the game. Entered, I believe, with 2 catches on the year. Was it part of the game plan? Was it the matchup what led to the big day for him in the passing game?
Well, it was the same thing that we had talked about going into the Towson game and going into the Mercer game was we need a big play. Who's our big play guy? And Raleigh can make a big play. If there's anybody out in the field, he's big, tall, and can run extremely fast. And we were going to get him. For the most part, we get him in man-to-man coverage. It's just a matter of whether we can, find him, get him open, and complete the ball and protect it. So when we did that, it certainly things work out. The other thing is we just try to hit him on a 3-step, just catch and pitch and catch out there, and for him to make a play. And on one drive, I thought we had about 3 or 4 consecutive pass plays where we had him on their heels and we were moving the football.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the other side, no Kurt Nixon, but Dijon Profit was out there, a sophomore receiver who had the first 3 catches of his career. And on the broadcast, Coach McComb said, the receivers in that type of offense, they don't get a ton of opportunities, so they certainly make the most of their opportunities. And it looked like he made the most of his opportunity out there on Saturday.
Yeah, Dijon was a guy that hadn't played a whole lot for us, is a redshirt sophomore for us. The catches that he made were catches that I hadn't even really seen him making in practice. He went up the second level. He took it from some guys. He made some 3rd down catches and some 4th down catches that were huge for us. I was just happy to see that. I was happy to see that we've got another guy out there. When Kurt was out, that was going to be able to help us.
Jordan Black, you mentioned it in your press conference how he had almost 200 passing yards, which in this triple option offense, you don't see all that often. What did you think from his performance overall, both throwing and even running and just controlling that offense?
I thought he had one of his better days, to be honest with you. I thought he was way better than he was at Towson for sure. He was on the point throwing the football. He was into the game. He was making great checks in there. He ran with some physical authority. He was delivering the football where it needed to be. Other than the 2 turnovers, I think he had a great game.
Let's talk about those 2 interceptions because, of course, that's when people look at the stat line, that's what stands out most to them. What went wrong on those 2 plays? What stood out to you?
Well, the one that probably drives me the most nuts was we were driving the football down the field, and we had them on their heels. And, it's typically one of those things where we had just converted a 1st down, and we all said together as let's take a shot at the end zone here. We had the perfect play call set up for it. And, what it ended up unfortunately was happening was one of the A-backs was supposed to go in motion there and kind of create a little bit more movement on the safety. And he didn't go in motion, and what ended up happening was that safety didn't quite move out of the middle of the field far enough. So the guy that we thought we were going to get open was a tourney there, and he was open but not quite as open as we had practiced. And Jordan threw a lofted ball more than a direct ball in there to try to fit one in. And unfortunately, when you call that, you don't expect you're not calling it to get the ball intercepted. It's either going to land incomplete and you're going to continue to drive the football, or you're going to score a touchdown there. And unfortunately, we had the 3rd one happen to us.
We've already talked about the passing game and Jordan Black's performance on Saturday and even their coming out for Raleigh Webb, but was it something that you had planned during the week or just the way the game went that you felt you wanted to throw the football more? Because I believe it was a season high for pass attempts for Jordan.
Well, what we did was typically what we do in our bye week is work our pass game. We'll work against our own defense, get some comfortability with it, and that's really what it comes down to. We work our run game so much during the week that you don't have a whole lot of time to work the pass game. It's just one of those things where you've got to pick and choose where you're going to put, and invest your time. And when you're an option offense and you've got all the read keys, pitch keys, and everything else, you want to make sure that that's good to go before you move on. So we worked it all in our bye week, and I thought we felt very comfortable with what we were getting and what we were going to do there. And it just so happened to work out that Jordan was on point and we were getting guys open.
On the flip side, Grant Drakeford didn't put up his typical numbers on the stat sheet, but you said yesterday that he does a lot more than what shows up in the box score, and that was the case on Saturday.
Yeah, away from the play or blocking and things like that, you just don't see the effort that he gives. We would be in tough shape without him out there. He's an experienced guy. He's a guy that comes in with knowing, if there's any kind of different or funky look that they're giving you, he's going to be able to sort it out for you. Plus, you put the ball in his hands in fourth down and you give him an opportunity. So even when he's not having a great day running the football, or it's just not an A-back day for him, he's out there doing other things. He made a pivotal and a key catch in the 2-minute drive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. We mentioned no Kurt Nixon allowing Dijon Prophet to step up. I know Phil Barrett had also been injured. Now another week in. How's the health of this team overall?
We're getting better. We still got a couple of guys that are coming back right now. Kurt's slowly getting his way back in there right now. I think he's got a good opportunity to be able to play this week, taking some practice reps out there. But some of Phil will be back this week. Phil, I had a little bit of a deal going into the coming out of the Towson game. He should be back ready to go. So we're slowly getting back there.
It's a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason in football about next man up when somebody does go down. And I think we've seen that for the last couple of weeks, not only with Prophet stepping in at the receiver position. It seems like Jay Howard has played pretty well in the secondary when Buffalo and now Phil have been hurt. Have you liked what you've seen from the guys that have stepped in there?
Yeah, Josh Bowers as well. Josh stepped in as the kick returner for us, provides a little bit of a spark at the kick return spot, does a good job for us there, and then did some punt returning for us as well as playing the secondary for us. So I think Josh has done a good job as well.
Talking with Coach here, getting ready for the matchup with VMI this weekend and recapping the tough loss from this past Saturday against ETSU 26-23. You can participate for those listening at home or watching online by sending in your questions using hashtag AskCoachThompson on Twitter, and we'll get to your questions here in the second half of the program. When we come back, we'll look ahead to the game coming up this Saturday with Citadel and VMI doing battle up in Virginia this Saturday and get ready for the big rivalry game. It's the Coach's Show with head coach Brent Thompson here on ESPN Radio 94.7 FM and 910 AM.
I reckon I've been hanging around a while. Now I don't move like I used to, but I still get the job done. So what if I fall down now and then? I get right back up again sooner or later.
What is your garage door saying? A brand new garage door from Overhead Door could be the upgrade your home is asking for. The genuine, the original Overhead Door. Just look for the red ribbon logo.
The corners of a city street, a table in a cafe seat. I got it, I don't miss a beat, oh no. Walking down the avenue, be it gray or be it blue. Live 5 News everywhere I go. You're everywhere, got you everywhere. Everywhere I go. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Everywhere I go.
Pizza with Pepsi. Delicious.
Mark Lee became the first Navy SEAL killed in Iraq, sacrificing his life for our freedoms and his SEAL teammates. America's Mighty Warriors was born out of Mark's challenge to pass on the kindness, the love, the precious gift of human life. We honor our troops and Gold Star families by providing programs that assist recovery after injury or loss. Partner with us by making a generous donation. Text MARK to 234-231-9284. America's Mighty Warriors, supporting our troops and the families of the fallen.
This is the Pepsi for serious fans and serious eats. This is the Pepsi for Sundays at the ballpark and days off at your favorite pizza joint. Right, Aaron?
Best slice in New York.
Whatever you're craving, this is the Pepsi for you.
I reckon I've been hanging.
We had long deployments in Iraq. Really grateful that USA was able to take care of my family while I was overseas serving.
It was my very first car accident. We were hit from behind. I called USAA, and the first thing they asked was, "Are you okay?" They always thank you for your service, which is nice because as a spouse, you serve too.
We're the Hells, and we're USA members for life.
See how much you could save with USAA by bundling your auto and home insurance. Get a quote today.
Pizza with Pepsi. Delicious.
Sorry, Dad.
Sure, you could get him a new car. You could also light a pile of money on fire. Because as long as Mr. "It wasn't my fault" takes the wheel on occasion, maintaining this car is your best option. So keep it running longer, stronger, with quality parts and a whole lot of Napa know-how.
Dad, where are you going?
These are the moments that move you. Roper St. Francis Orthopedics is South Carolina's leader when it comes to letting you stay in play. Our top-rated program has over 30 specialists across the Lowcountry who are ready to treat all of your moving parts. Call 727-DOCS to keep on moving.
This is the Pepsi for serious fans and serious eats. This is the Pepsi for Sundays at the ballpark and days off at your favorite pizza joint. Right, Aaron?
Best slice in New York.
Whatever you're craving, this is the Pepsi for you.
Coaches Show with the head coach Brent Thompson of the Citadel Bulldogs here from the Marina Variety Store and Restaurant in downtown Charleston at 17 Lockwood Drive. Great food, great views, great people with us here on Wednesday nights, always throughout the football season, right down the road from the Citadel. Coach's wings have arrived. You get the wings, of course, here every week. That's been a tradition for you. How often do you eat wings outside of Wednesday nights?
Almost never. I do look forward to it. They're nice and hot tonight. It was perfect.
Yeah, good food here, whether it's the seafood, the wings, whatever it may be that you order. The Bulldogs getting ready for the game Saturday up in Virginia with VMI, big rivalry game, of course. And for me, my first experience with it, so maybe you can help me out. I mean, how big of a deal is this game year in and year out for each of the two programs?
Well, as I like to tell the team, is anytime that you play for a trophy, it is a big game. And it's certainly a big game for us, as that we are two very similar institutions. And we all have the same goals and everything. And it's kind of a nice little game that we do play, and it makes the year interesting for us.
What was it like when you first came to the program, even before you became the head coach, but when you first arrived here and your first taste of this rivalry? Did you realize at the time, maybe when you first came on campus, maybe it wasn't until the game, when did you get that sense like, hey, this is an important matchup?
Well, it probably wasn't until the game that was down here in 2015. The game in 2014 up at VMI was a very quiet. It was the last game of the year. I think we were 4 wins that year. We were moving on to our 5th win. We were 5-7 that year. VMI was having a little bit of a down year, so it was a little bit anticlimactic in that game. But when we came down the next year, Coach Walkenheim had taken over, and there was a little bit of a rebirth in that program. And it was a pretty good game. It was back and forth quite a bit. We had a couple of key turnovers. We had a couple of touchdowns that we scored. Scored a couple of them late in that game. But that's when I really felt it, when we had it back at home, and it was a pretty good crowd here, and certainly is always a good turnout for us.
Now, you mentioned playing for a trophy. This season hasn't gone as you would have liked to this point so far. So when you have a game like this, does it become that more important now because of the way the season has started? Does that have any effect on it?
You certainly try to make it your Super Bowl. I know they're going to make it their Super Bowl, so we've got to make it our Super Bowl. And I brought the trophy out to practice every single day. I took it off the shelf right there, and I told them all about it. And hopefully we have a good understanding of what that trophy means to us.
Does it make your job a little easier in that sense to help hype hype the guys up for it because you have a trophy that you can bring out to the sidelines?
I do. I think so, and I think our seniors they certainly want to be the ones that be able to retain and say that they've retained it the whole time that they were here, and that they take pride in that.
Yeah, 11 straight wins for the Bulldogs. The trophy has been here since VMI's last win in 2002. VMI this year winless. They'll be looking for their first win on Saturday, off to an 0-6 start, 0-5 in the conference, but always a competitive game. I imagine this is one of those matchups that you can kind of throw the records out the window, and despite the 0-6 record for VMI, it's not a team that you can take lightly on Saturday.
Well, certainly not, because I know this is that they're going to give you your best game. They always do, and they're going to pull out all the stops. Everything that they've been doing all year long is going to be geared towards this game. So you've got all the trick plays, all the trick kicks, all the special teams plays. That's what makes it a very, very scary game for us. And we've taken that same approach this year. Is we are going to probably do some things a little bit out of character for ourselves. We're going to take it to them a little bit. I thought we've sat back the last couple of years and let them dictate the game to us. We need to dictate the game plan to them this year.
Those listening at home, watching online, you can participate. You can send your questions online on Twitter by using hashtag AskCoachThompson. And one question did come in from Mark out there listening, and we thank you for the question. But he asked something in the same vein for this week, is to make sure maybe that the guys don't get too hyped up. I just asked you if it's a concern to overlook a winless team. Well, on the flip side, is there a concern that the guys would get too excited for a game like this?
This bunch, I don't think so. In years past, I thought definitely the 2006 team could. We always kept those guys fairly calm, under control. We just took it one day at a time. They were a very good football team. This team, I like the way that they play when they play emotional, and I thought we played extremely emotional on Saturday, and I thought that really helped us out on defense. The only thing that you got to be careful of when you over amp a game is they do get out over, and they could be more susceptible to trick plays. Mm-hmm. They start to forget about the other things. They forget about their assignments, and they forget about the rules and everything. So I want them to be at a high level and at a high tempo. However, you've got to still play with a little bit of caution because of everything that can come out of it.
I saw it the first game of the year when we went to Wofford, and there was great fan support on the road for the Bulldogs. I hear it's pretty similar up in VMI, that there are a lot of alumni up in that area and just a lot of Bulldog fans that come out and support you guys up there.
Yeah, it's great because we do have a good Northern Virginia contingency that will come out for that game. We've got some people that have come down from the Maryland, Pennsylvania area, a fairly easy trip for those guys to be able to come down and visit us. It is a big game, and they do like that atmosphere up there. It's a neat place to play a football game. I think it's a terrific campus. If it wasn't for the weather, I think it would be an awesome place. But to be honest with you, is having both cores there is going to be really cool. The last time we were there, and we had our freshman class and all their core there. It was a little bit of back and forth. It was a lot of fun.
Looking forward to it. 1:30 kick on Saturday. Of course, we'll have all the action here in Charleston on the radio, beginning with the tailgate show at 11:30 Saturday morning. Get an early start this weekend with the kickoff up in Virginia. You mentioned the Furman game later on this year. The other rival for the Bulldogs, is there one rivalry that you put in front of the other? Is there a bigger rival between these two for the Bulldogs?
It's still Wofford for me. It's just going back to all the tough, tight, close, physical football games that we've had with those guys over the last 5 years since I've been here. Wofford has been that team for me that you always kind of circle on the calendar. That's the one that you always want to get after a little bit. The VMI game, certainly because of the similarities in the school. And then the Furman game is almost the whole differences in the school. It's a completely different school than this, and you always hear about it more for the alumni. It used to be the last game of the year, and you had one coach going from the Citadel going up to Furman there, so you had a little bit of that rivalry as well, dating all the way back.
Coach McCombs, of course, is now a member of our broadcast booth. He played at the Citadel, coached a long time at the Citadel, and then he may not want people to know, but he coached at VMI, of course. He said when he was at VMI, he made an effort to try to turn it into the Army-Navy game of the South, and he wanted it to be on a Friday night leading into the Army-Navy game on the Saturday, final weekend of the regular season for college football, and play it at a neutral site in Charlotte, and really turn it into a big deal, have it be the military bowl of the South. Is that something that you would like to see, that this game really is turned into the Southern version of Army-Navy, something along those lines?
I do. I think it would be a great thing for us. I think it would be a great thing for football. But that takes a little bit of scheduling and coordination. You'd like to play it at the end of the year. You got to get that with the conference and everything like that. So certainly that would be a great opportunity. If we could even rotate it a couple of years, Charlotte would be a perfect spot because it's in between, whether you go a home and then a neutral site as well in the third year or something, would be kind of cool. And I thought it would be a great environment if we could bring both corps, if both schools could commit to it, because that's what I've been to 3 Army-Navy games in my life, and still one of the best atmospheres, one of the best college football games you'll ever go to.
It's my favorite one to watch. I love that it has its own weekend now. It's the only game on that Saturday, and just the atmosphere is great. I mean, for your experience, just as a fan going to these places, has there been anything that has topped the Army-Navy experience for you?
Never. Now, keep in mind, is I've gone to very few college football games other than the ones that I've been coaching in.
That's true. Yeah.
I went to a Penn State game once when I was at Bucknell. Great atmosphere there at Penn State, but not quite the whole pageantry of it, man. I really loved it. Now, I've been to an Army-Navy game in probably over 25 years, but the last one I went to was in Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia, and I was an Army fan at the time, growing up an Army fan at the time. It was a great football game, and I think Navy ended up beating them that day.
Do you remember any big names from those?
I don't remember off the top of my head right now.
Army-Navy, the big rivalry up there, and down here it's Citadel VMI. From your experience growing up playing football at all your different stops through your career, does this rivalry compare to something else that you have been to that is that big of a deal for the players with the trophy that you're looking forward to in the trophy case and making sure it stays there? Have you experienced something like this in past stops that compares?
I don't think so. We've never quite had that down the road kind of a school or similar kind of a school, that because we're such a different school that our similarities make it a little bit of a rivalry there. So I don't think I've ever had that in any other place I've been at Bucknell. We had very few natural rivalries. When I was at Lenore-Ryan, we actually did play for the Cane, which was a Catawba, which is a very similar school down the road from us, but not quite the same rivalry that we have right now with the VMI kind of being unique and different at the same time.
I saw the video just before I came over here. Did you catch the video of Mark May and Lou Holtz talking about the game online?
I did not. No, I did not.
Oh, well, the VMI Citadel matchup even made it to them, and it's online. Great. You can find it, yeah. One of them picked Citadel, one of them picked VMI.
Oh, good.
So Mark May seems to be a Citadel fan.
All right, good. Well, I'm a Pitt guy, so I like Mark May.
And Lou Holtz, we don't need to talk about him. He didn't pick the Bulldogs this week. But Citadel and VMI with a big game this Saturday coming up. We'll take a break, come back, our final segment where we'll really dig into the matchup, discuss what we'll see on the football field Saturday when the Bulldogs head up to Virginia, take on VMI in this rivalry. Again, you can tweet in your questions using the hashtag AskCoachThompson, and we'll get to those questions in the final segment. One more segment to go here on the Coach's Show from the Marina Variety Store and Restaurant in downtown Charleston on ESPN Radio, 94.7 FM and 910 AM.
Pizza with Pepsi. Delicious.
Buying a home is a big financial decision, so you need a strong team working on your mortgage. That team is at South Atlantic Bank. Decisions are made right here in our community by mortgage professionals who really know the Low Country. South Atlantic Bank offers competitive rates and terms on loans for home purchase or refinance. If you need a mortgage loan, you need the mortgage loan professionals at South Atlantic Bank. South Atlantic Bank Mortgage Group, providing the keys to home ownership.
Close Shave America, Close Shave Barbasol, Close Shave Barbasol.
Now, try new Barbasol razors.
This is the Pepsi for serious fans and serious eats. This is the Pepsi for Sundays at the ballpark and days off at your favorite pizza joint. Right, Aaron?
Best slice in New York.
Whatever you're craving, this is the Pepsi for you.
What does First Alert weather mean? It means you're connected.
To the here, to the now.
To big changes before they happen.
From the everyday to the severe, you need a team that gives you the earliest alert.
When we know, you'll know.
Anywhere you are. Led by the most experienced meteorologist in the Low Country, Live 5 is your weather leader.
Not because we want to be first, because your safety comes first.
First Alert Weather, only from Live 5 News.
Pizza with Pepsi. Delicious.
The great thing about an old truck is you can treat it like an old truck, which is exactly why you got a truck in the first place. It's not old, it's broken in. So keep it running longer, stronger, with quality parts and a whole lot of Napa know-how. That's not gonna buff out.
TD Bank's new intern, Bart, is one of those robots from another bank. We're training him to bank human. Bart, why are you winding the clock back?
The clock stated 11:35 p.m., but they are still working.
The clock is fine. Our live customer service is available all night, and all day for that matter. He's learning.
At TD Bank, we do things differently.
Hello?
Like live customer service.
Hello?
24/7. Don't just bank. Bank human.
Pizza with Pepsi. Delicious.
Style. Selection. Service. Quality. Value. See what everyone is talking about. Ashley Furniture Home Store.
This is the Pepsi for serious fans and serious eats. This is the Pepsi for Sundays at the ballpark and days off at your favorite pizza joint. Right, Aaron?
Best slice in New York.
Whatever you're craving, this is the Pepsi for you.
Buying a home is a big financial decision, so you need a strong team working on your mortgage. That team is at South Atlantic Bank. Decisions are made right here in our community by mortgage professionals who really know the Lowcountry.
Here in downtown Charleston, located at 17 Lockwood Drive, here every Wednesday during the football season for the Coaches Show from 7 to 8. Talking with the coach tonight about Saturday's matchup with VMI coming up in Virginia for the Military Classic of the South. Still time to send in questions for those listening at home or watching online. You can use the hashtag AskCoachThompson on Twitter and submit your questions, and we'll try to sneak them in here before we wrap up at the top of the hour. Coach, we talked about the game this past Saturday against ETSU, but I didn't even ask you about everything else that was going on. It was Parents' Weekend, the ring ceremony as well. Other than the result on the field, how was the weekend for the program and the players this past weekend?
I thought it was a great atmosphere. I thought we did a great job really handling it because it can be a little bit of a distraction there. Ring weekend wasn't a distraction at all. I think the guys did a great job handling it. The seniors getting their rings. They were focused. They were ready to go. They were in the hotel ready to go. They were at the walkthrough, which is always a tough time right there. They're just getting out of the ring ceremony, getting to the walkthrough on Friday night. So, overall, I thought it was a great, well-planned weekend, very enjoyable, and having Parents' Weekend was very enjoyable up until the point where we certainly didn't get the win.
Yeah, when we were exiting out of the press box after the game Saturday, ran into a group of parents who were just excited to be able to spend some time with their kids. So I'm sure the players appreciated having the opportunity to see their parents this past weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always one of those, especially as a knob as well, is when you're a freshman, you look forward to those milestones, and if they feel like milestones, but they're just points along the calendar that you look to. The next one you look to is certainly his homecoming is a good opportunity, but really it's probably Thanksgiving, and then it goes to Christmas break, and then it goes to spring break, and the next thing you know is recognition. So that was the way that I approached it at Norwich as well, and I think they're continuing the same thing. I just try to keep on pushing my younger players and freshmen to those milestones until, of course, the guys that I recruited right now are getting their rings.
All right, let's talk back about Saturday's game, this upcoming game with VMI coming up here on the road in Lexington, Virginia. VMI 0-6 this year, got a trophy on the line in this Military Classic of the South matchup on Saturday, conference game for the Bulldogs. And when you look at VMI, it's interesting. I don't recall seeing such a change in 1 year for an offense, where last year they averaged like 8 points a game, and now this year they're throwing it all over the place and they're averaging 25 points a game. What has been the biggest difference for them last year to this year offensively?
Well, they got a new offensive coordinator, and they hired a Hal Mumme disciple, which we know is, and they're all relatives of Kevin Hatcher as well. Coach Hatcher, or Chris Hatcher, sorry, Chris Hatcher was with Coach Mumme as well. They're all Kentucky guys, and learned the offense, learned the system. He happened to learn it out there when Coach Mumme was out there at New Mexico State, and that's just their system. We run the football a lot, they throw the football a lot, and no matter what, that's what they're going to do. They're going to be very, very similar to Sanford. They're going to get the ball out of their hands. They're going to run precise routes. They're going to catch the football for 5 or 6, make you miss for 1 or 2 more, and try to keep you moving down the field and score a lot of points.
Faced a team in Chattanooga that did a little bit of that. They like to throw it around a lot, maybe not as much as VMI. VMI averages to throw it something like, I think, almost 60 times a game. What is it like for your defense to get ready for this matchup? How do you like this matchup?
It's a little bit difficult for us. We are a run-stopping oriented team, and we've got a balance between keeping pressure on the quarterback and not giving up a big play, keeping them in front of us, and then certainly not letting them just chink you down the field a little bit at a time. Just the whole, hey, nickel and dime, and then pop you up for a big one right there and catch you doing something that you shouldn't be doing.
They average about 88 plays a game offensively. Is there any sort of hurry-up offense, or it's just been so many scores and possessions that's how that play?
It's been a little bit of both. They've had as many as 100 snaps in some games.
Yeah, so VMI offensively, on paper, something to worry about. But on the flip side, it seems like their defense is a little bit vulnerable. They average to allow 54 points a game. They have allowed at least 48 points in all but one game this year. So when you look at that defense on tape, what do you see that gives you hope to be able to run the football against them?
Well, first of all, they're young. They were very old and veteran group last year, and I thought Coach Clark always did a good job on defense, and he's always put his guys in good spots. He's always tried to create a little bit of confusion for your offense, and it takes you a few series to kind of learn it and figure it out and move forward with it. So this unit's a little bit different. He's playing with quite a few freshmen. He's playing with some redshirt freshmen in there and some sophomores, some guys that haven't played with us, played against us, and quite, he's been playing with mostly veteran guys for the last 2 or 3 years. So I don't know what his approach is going to be this year to us, is to try to mix it up as much as you can, or try to stay a little bit more stagnant and kind of keep the ball in front of you a little bit and play more assignment and disciplined football.
They've struggled against the run so far this year. They average to allow 281 rush yards a game, over 6 yards per carry so far this year. So, on paper, when you look at this matchup, it looks like for a triple option offense that likes to run the football, this could be good for you.
Yeah, certainly. Again, we watched the Wofford game, we watched the Sanford game, so you got one of the early games and one of the later games in there. I think they've gotten a lot better. I think they do a pretty good job of executing some assignments. Now, at points, they show some of their younger players kind of just as we do on defense. May miss an assignment here, miss a tackle there, and the next thing you know, you turn a smaller game into a pretty large, fair-sized game. And that's what happened against Wofford. Wofford, they gave up some pretty big plays to them. Stoddard had quite a few yards. They had 400 yards rushing on them. I think 600 yards total on them. So I think I've seen quite a bit of difference between their defense from where they were at Wofford to where they ended up at Sanford last week.
0-6 this year for VMI, but getting ready for this game, you and your coaching staff, you've watched enough film, looked at the numbers enough that I'm sure you know this program, this VMI program, as well as anybody off that campus. What has been the issue for them to get off to this 0-6 start? What has kind of gone wrong for them so far?
Well, I think they're similar to us in some ways. Is their games have been a lot closer. They could easily be 3-3. They could have beaten a very good ETSU game. That was I watched that game. That was during a hurricane break there, and turnovers everywhere. It was just a little bit of a sloppy game on both sides. But they had their opportunities to win the football game, and the Mercer game was a very close back and forth game there. A couple things go their way, and they're going to win that game. It's just a matter of them getting over the hump as well. They've hit this little bit of a slump where last year was a struggle for them. They've continued into this year. Last year they were more of a veteran group. This year you're more of a younger group, and you got to win. You got to learn how to win with these guys.
I mentioned some of the defensive numbers that on paper don't look very good for VMI, but they have been able to get after the quarterback. They average almost 5 sacks a game getting after the quarterback. Now, as a triple option offense, this past week, a bit of an outlier. Maybe you don't throw it as often as these other teams do, but their ability to get after the quarterback, do they have a pretty good defensive line? Do they like to blitz? What have they been doing in that
sense? They bring
sense?
pressure, and they bring pressure from all over. They'll bring pressure up the middle with the linebackers. They'll bring pressure from the edge, from the corners. They'll give up some things in the pass game in order to bring some more pressure there. They're going to try to force you into a mistake.
As a triple option offense, when you talk about bringing pressure, and again, as I always say, you've forgotten more about football than I'll ever even know, so maybe a dumb question, but for a triple option offense going up against a team, in regards to bringing pressure, what is the worst kind of pressure for you to see? Is it up the middle? Is it on the outside? Is it, not a blitz at all?
We don't get a whole lot of pressure. We've got our checks, and really we've got run checks into pressure, because what pressure does is it creates open gaps, and people don't like the pressure of the triple option because we're usually a gap sound team. Everything that we're doing, we spend so much time in the run game that unless you feel really confident and good, and usually we'll get 1 or 2 of those. The only times that we'll traditionally get pressure is we're going in, we're getting close, the field's getting shorter, they're going to take a shot at us just trying to pound the football in. They're going to try to catch us. Maybe on a pitch, they're going to try to corner fire into a pitch, and we saw that at the Thompson game. Conversely, is they corner fired into a pass play, and at Thompson we just couldn't make them pay for it. So that's one of those instances. We get quite a few of those edge pressures because of how much we do pitch the football. Anytime that you bring pressure inside, the ETSU brought some pressure to the inside. It's just a matter of whether you can catch it, whether they time it up well or not, is whether it's a big play for you or a big play for them. So we've got to practice a little bit of that pressure as well, where they're going to expose a gap. We've got to change up our snap count. We've got to make sure that we keep the defense always guessing when the ball's going to come off because of our timing of our motion and everything. Sometimes teams can get a key on that and get a beat on that. The short answer of it is we don't mind a whole lot of pressure. Sometimes they bring pressure in spots that you're not expecting it. When it comes to third down, sometimes you'll just see a draw play, so you don't want pressure, or we've got a couple screens in where you don't want to deal with the pressure. You just want to get the ball out really quickly. Sometimes you want to just throw a 3-step game and see if we can't make a play and bust a tackle and try to get 7 or 8 when we should only get 4 or 5.
So with that said, and we've already kind of touched on it, but they're almost polar opposite from what you and the Bulldogs try to do. You're a run-first team. They're a pass-first team. They run close to 100 plays. They throw it all over the place. Does that make time of possession more important to keep that offense off the field?
I think so. And, whether we intentionally do it this week or not, I'm not really sure about how that's going to play out for the game. I'm going to see what how the game unfolds, whether we want to hold the ball a little bit longer. But, unintentionally, we just naturally should do it. We should naturally have long drives. We're going to huddle. We're going to run the football. We're going to let the thing eat up a little bit. And if we score, we score. If not, then we're going to try to play the field position game.
Winding down here on the Coaches Show. Got about 3 minutes left, so let me try to sneak in a couple more questions with you. We've talked a lot this year about getting off to a fast start. You got off to a fast start against ETSU and against VMI. I see that they've gotten off to slow starts as well. They've been outscored by 3 times this amount of points in the first quarter. So, as always, how important would a quick start in the first quarter be Saturday?
Well, we've got to set the tone. We've got to set the tone in the first half. We've got to know what we're getting. We've got to understand what we're getting. We've got to be able to make our adjustments fairly quickly. And that's what's happened to us over the course of this game, in particular with Coach Clark and the defenses. We've had to constantly make adjustments. So we understand that we need to have enough things into our game plan where we can adjust it, where we've got a pretty good idea of what we're going to get and how we're going to attack it, and then where we need to go from that point on. So I think those things are going to be key and pivotal for us in the first half. Defensively, we need to make sure that we obviously would like to get a 3 and out, try to play the field position game with them, get a quick score off of them. But we know what's going to happen in there. They're going to try to take their shots down the field. There's going to be a couple trick plays mixed in there. We've got to be on guard for all of that stuff.
Well, you just touched on, I would imagine, the keys for the game as well Saturday. Lastly, before we go, with about 90 seconds, I ask you each week, so I'll ask you again, how important would a win be this Saturday, especially in this game with VMI?
Well, it certainly would be huge for us. Certainly, once again, getting off on the second half of the schedule and getting a rivalry game underway, getting the trophy back where it belongs in our place would certainly help us out.
Well, Coach, I'm looking forward to certainly my first taste of this matchup, the Military Classic of the South, coming up Saturday, VMI and the Bulldogs up in Virginia, in Lexington at VMI. Coach, as always, appreciate your time tonight. Wish you guys the best of luck, safe travels, and go get a win on Saturday.
Thank you. See you up in Lexington.
That's head coach Brent Thompson of the Citadel Bulldogs as we wrap things up here tonight from the Marina Variety Store and Restaurant. Want to remind you, of course, we'll be here every Wednesday throughout the football season with the Coaches Show here from the Marina Variety Restaurant Store, with the show beginning at 7 o'clock every Wednesday night right here on 94.7 FM and 9:10 a.m. And don't forget, this Saturday, kickoff up in Virginia at 1:30, which means that the radio coverage here in Charleston will begin at 11:30 locally with the tailgate show, pregame show at 12:30, kickoff at 1:30 on 102.1 FM, 92.1 FM, and 1450 AM, our sister stations for the Military Classic of the South on Saturday. The Bulldogs will try to win their 12th straight against VMI. Kickoff at 1:30 on Saturday. Hope to see you out there up in Virginia. If not, coverage beginning at 11:30 here in Charleston. For the head coach, Brent Thompson, I'm Luke Morrow, wishing you a happy rest of your Wednesday night. And we'll talk to you next Wednesday from the Marina Variety Store Restaurant, as well as Saturday from Virginia. Go Bulldogs!